Hello, testing. Testing. So we're waiting.
Wow, is that me? Hey, Zennie, how you doing?
Awesome.
I don't know who's echoing. I see you twice on there, though.
Oh, hold on. You see me twice?
Yeah, you're on twice.
Holy cow. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of this one. Does that help?
There you go. That's right. You did it.
Wow. Man, oh man.
Hey, that's the new commute. You just experienced a new commute, huh?
Well, a different kind of new commute, because I'm used to Zoom. I've done Teams. I did Teams with my team day before yesterday for a proposal we were writing. So it's just a matter of I don't know, just my brain.
That's the commute. I mean, it's going between Zoom to Google Meet and Microsoft. I mean, it just goes on, and
it's fun stuff.
Everyone has their own idiosyncrasies.
Yeah,
idiosyncrasies to them.
It's fun stuff. Can you can see me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. I got audio, but I don't see anybody, so I didn't know. It reminds me.
Are you working from a screen? Because I had a couple of slides I was hoping to share with you guys today.
Oh, okay. I can see a blue screen right now, or it's purple, actually, like Viking colors.
Excellent. Hi, this is Rebecca Kaplan. I'm the purple square.
I'm not sure Councilman, how you doing?
But can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
You can.
Loud and clear. Absolutely. Now it's coming into focus. This reminds me of a Star Trek episode. It's all the I forget which one was there in pods. I think it was For Whom Gods Destroy. That was it. Star Trek, the original series, Whom Gods Destroy. Yeah.
Nice. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah. So you guys are the gods, because I can only see
parts of it. Well, given the renaming of Twitter yesterday, I thought I would take a page off of Star Trek and we could rename myself Q.
Excellent. Wow. Excellent. Q. I love it. Played by the great John Delancey.
Yep.
Boy. Oh man, that's one of my favorite series of episodes. Ooh, boy. How's everybody's health? I guess
not too.
Can't complain too much. It's just
Alan. I haven't seen you. Alan, I haven't seen you in years, man. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, well, I see you pretty often. Your podcast and everything, very informative. And,
thank you.
And so I feel like I'm up to date with Zennie, but not the other way around.
Well, I got to get up to date with Alan. I still remember when I flew down to meet that LA County Coliseum commissioner whose name just flew out of my head. And on the way down, your father grabbed me by the scruff of my neck. And he said, "Young man, I'm building an empire here, media. And the future is going to be media and information and law." He said it just like that. He was not wrong at all.
Wow.
He was not wrong at all. Yeah, that was 1996. Yeah.
It
was 1996.
So that was Tom Berkeley.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I did not hear a response to how I'm doing.
Oh, I said, how are you doing, sir?
I said I am doing tolerably fair.
Oh man.
How do we make it more than fair?
My grandfather always said he was doing tolerably fair.
Okay.
Long after he was deceased, I asked my mother, never having heard that expression, I said, Papa always said he was doing tolerably fair. I said, what does that mean? She said, I have no idea. She said she never heard the expression. So I'm passing it on. She said maybe what he meant was it wasn't great, but he could kind of tolerate it. She said, but she had never heard the expression. She had no idea what it meant. Excuse me 1 second.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Alan, that was your great father, though. That was he taught me a lot, man. He really did.
Oh, okay. But you must be talking about my other dad, Tom Berkeley.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry, but that's the other.
He was my adopted father. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know. Wow.
Yeah. No. He became
Oh, you know what?
Second dad.
When you did the music for my first startup, which I still a classic. I thank you. You told me that. And I remember in your living room. You told me. I just remember that now. So boom, that was a long time ago, man. That was 2002. Yeah, that was 2002. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
So hello everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, sorry, just getting on up. I'm on my smartphone. I'm trying to get the link to come up on my iPad, and if I'm successful, I'll switch over to that iPad. And I know I want to be respectful of everyone's time because I think Henry's got to leave by 10:30, and I know I've got another appointment around that time. I'm sure all the rest of you are busy. So I know we've got Councilperson Kaplan on.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning indeed.
Henry Gardner, Zennie, Allen.
Good morning.
Myself, Daryl's on, and then I see two other names. I'm not sure who they are. They want to introduce.
We're joined by my chief of staff, Kimberly Jones, and Anatelia is on my staff, and then I see one that says guest.
Who's guest?
Ooh, don't know.
I see guest next to Supervisor Miley's name.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's me. Okay. All right. Okay.
Awesome. We're getting the band back together.
Yes. Okay. Well, both Zennie and Alan have talked with me about inquiring on setting up an enhanced infrastructure financing district for the Coliseum area. And they've both indicated that they thought this would be beneficial and serve the public interest, and that it's something that the JPA could do as well. So Rebecca's the chair of the JPA and I'm the vice chair. I wanted to give them an opportunity to discuss this with us, with Henry on, so we could see if we share their position and then see what our next steps might be. So maybe I'll turn it over to Alan and Zennie to kind of make some remarks, and then we'll see what questions and talk about it.
And Zennie, I don't know if you want to go first, but I did prepare 2 or 3 slides or a few slides to look just for perspective. You can kind of see what I've been working on over the years, and both on, with respect to this at the Coliseum and other places.
Sure. I have no problem speaking, since I actually made a blog post about the idea and kind of,
Sure.
Put it out there. As everybody here knows, particularly those who've been around quite a while, historically, Henry, you remember this, of course, with the Coliseum, it had its own funding source based on the original bond issue for the facility. And that ran out. It was about $1.1 million a year. And that was used for staffing. But to make a long story short, in the changeover, if you will, We lost that, and we've been at a privatized number of functions. I felt that given the rapid changes in enhanced infrastructure financing district legislations, and specifically AB 336, I always mispronounce Villanueva's last name, so forgive me that, but it was signed into law January 21st, 2021. It allowed enhanced infrastructure financing districts to be altered in such a way that the public financing authority that legally should come with them could have members of a taxing agency that was also whose member was part of a joint powers authority. Now, what does that sound like? It sounds like the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority can indeed by law be also, with a change here, they're slight, which I'll suggest in a second, also a public financing authority managing an enhanced infrastructure financing district. Now, that, if I'm jumping forward to a place where it was implemented, would give a great deal of fiscal flexibility to the JPA that it didn't have before. However, my suggestion is the name be altered so that it would be the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Public Financing Authority. And with an eye toward the fact that once we start to implement this, rather than having different public financing authorities in Oakland, we have one that is charged with facilities financing, particularly for sports entertainment, but for other uses, with the knowledge that SB 628B allows us to finance different projects of community-wide significance, which means, frankly speaking, it's actually allowed. Each council member in Oakland can designate such, a project. So we're not really, focusing this only on sports entertainment for those who would say, hey, it's just for this, right? The flexibility is much broader. We can also assemble an issue where what's wrong with my head today? Where we basically pledge or get money up front with the expectation of future revenues. The common term for that financing tool just flew right out of my head. Perhaps my coffee didn't kick in, but at any rate, that would solve the problem, for example, of being a slave, if you will, to a developer that was financing staff, but then ran out of money because of economic change or some other circumstance. And I'll stop right there and give Alan an opportunity to present his take. And I just want to add, though, Mr. Gardner, your proposal of giving back or subordinating or submitting or stopping funding is easier to do if this type of provision is in place. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Zennie. I think I've been thinking along the same lines as you. I've been really obsessed with the EIFD from the standpoint of really needing to come up with a underwritable rationale for the project. And so I've been kind of looking at it, very, very high level at, the enabling law and policies, but have been looking at it more from the standpoint of the numbers and some of the logistics towards getting it done. So we know without going through all of the detail, we know that the site comes with, a pretty massive infrastructure need that includes the relocation of the utilities, the underground tunnel, the East Bay Mud Tunnel, the relocation of the power utilities. It comes with the need to do a significant amount of sea level rise. One of the things about EIFD, though, that really is intriguing for me is that when a project is deemed transit oriented, and Zennie might be more on top of this than I am, you can also do what was more traditionally the redevelopment, economic development that Henry basically presided over the glory years of Oakland, using that as a tool. So what one of the things that I've worked with a number of consultants, EPS, House Roth Economics, and PFM in particular, working pretty closely with Bob Gamble, and really putting together an approach and some modeling. And just to get to the nut of it, I think that I'll show you a couple of things just so you guys know that the tool is there somewhat in place and ready to go. If you look at the site, let me see if I'm sharing. Am I sharing my screen with everyone?
I saw something there. Hey, Alan, did you want me to make a comment about the redevelopment part?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, SB 620 bill was signed into law by California Governor Jerry Brown on the 15th of September of 2015 as a replacement for redevelopment. It was called the Son of Redevelopment. So you were talking about traditional redevelopment. This is the one tool, and the mistake is made a lot of late. I've noticed that over the last 4 years. But the one tool that is the linchpin of redevelopment, aside from originally eminent domain, is tax increment financing. And that's far different from standard industrial development financing. And that mistake is made a lot. It's made by the media all the time. Enhanced infrastructure financing district legislation specifically includes and is centered around tax increment financing and that very powerful doubling formula. Thank you, Alan.
Sure. So what I've done is, are you guys seeing the Coliseum lot, just to make sure that you got the right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
So real quickly, what happens there is we look at this economic development. We've been looking at it both from the standpoint of without additional sports venues and the development with sports venues and up to 2 sports venues, and basically utilizing the guidance that came under the Coliseum specific plan, which established an as of right envelope of development for the site, which could be densified. There's a lot of details to all of this that would have to be paid attention to. You arrive at a place where basically we look at an assembled site that gets divided into 20 developable sites. So this is kind of high level rough drawing of what such a grid could look like. And again, that has the space for stadiums. So I took a shot at taking the square footages of those 20 sites and applying the FAR, an FAR of 8, and taking out the sports venues from the whole package and looking at what does that yield in terms of developable commercial space and developable residential units, using things like the PUD bonus and affordable housing density bonus, et cetera. And quite frankly, what I'm showing now really is a scenario that would evolve if you did 50-50, took 50% of the site and did commercial and 50% with residential and took advantage of that bonus. What does that look like? And what does that yield economically? And just, again, worked since probably around 2016 17 with House Rat Economics to work out, how the city allocates funding and putting together a way to break down that tax increment into the different components and really extract what's practically available for the use towards an EIFD.
Can I ask a question while you're doing this? Is that
sure?
allowed?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you enlarge that screen? Because if you're going to present tax increment revenues, this is not the way to do it, and you need a time series.
I'm not trying to do it right now, Zennie.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, because I can't see.
Share with you the work that we've done on it.
Right.
Okay?
I just want
to behind this, everything you see on the screen right now are reams and reams of spreadsheets and calculations that have been done by me and a number of others that have been working on
right.
this.
But Alan, do you mind if I check them over? Okay. I would like to check them over.
Yeah, well, again, the conversation came up. I'm just trying to give you a sense of what we've been working on. And you'll see up here, it says draft.
Yeah.
It does give, yeah.
Could I interrupt you for just a second, since Zennie has raised this question? I heard you say earlier that you had conferred with PFM.
Yeah, I worked with Bob Gamble on this.
Well, I know the company very well.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
I'm
very
just
well.
saying, before Bob left PFM.
So have they given you any feedback on your charts with respect to tax increments?
Absolutely. I mean, the charts that I work in, the model that I put together.
Because they are very, very capable in this field.
Yeah. And so there was a combination of things done that I started with. One was to bring Linda on, and she worked with the City of Oakland Budget Department so she could break down the actual tax dollars and the distributions of it. Then I brought Bob Gamble on, and Bob Gamble, among other things, helped to present value the appropriate tax flows based on the EIFD.
Hold on a second, Alan.
And
Alan,
yeah.
All right, this is a really simple question, because this is, I don't, forgive me, but what is the base year assessed value? I don't see it.
The base year, like if you look at this spreadsheet, for example, the base year assessed value that I'm looking at, if I go over here to my assumptions page, I'm conservatively looking at 11 billion.
Okay.
355. Now that's a stabilized, and I'll share, again, I can go into ad nauseum detail about why and the presumptions here. And basically with that, I'm using a 0.85% as the tax revenue base that generates that.
Okay, hold on a second. Wait, Alan, stop. Please. I apologize. What is your rate of growth in assessed value? And also, why didn't you start? Because this assumes it's developed, which is fine. But
okay, I used a rate of growth. If you want to get into that kind of detail,
well, that's tax increment financing.
I used an escalation rate of 2%. I discounted it. The cash flows, I think I used a 5. I've done. Bob Gamble has informed me on what are the appropriate discount rates based on different factors. And so, at the end of the day, there's a number of things. You could say no.
Well, no, it's not.
At the end of the day, that probably has spent somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300,000.
I think
in consultant fees.
I apologize.
We're getting ready to run out of time.
Yeah.
I think we need to keep this discussion at a much higher level.
Yeah.
We can dive, Alan, later, you and Zennie.
Yeah. I just want to show you what's been done. That's all I was looking at.
It is approaching 10 o'clock.
Yes,
sir. So I think we need to keep this at a fairly high level now with respect to the concept and how that might work and what the structure might look like. Structure meaning the government structure.
Agreed.
So from the development, African American Sports and Entertainment Development Team, we've got an E&A with the city, and we've had to go forward, and it has to be based on some logic and rationale in terms of what the economic development looks like. So this is why we look at this, and that's what everything is based upon. We have So the EIFD is one of the major components of that calculation. So just know that I have this work product there. The other thing that we look at is, what are the economic factors? What do we develop the site? What are the areas? How do we develop the site? And so we've done quite a bit of work there, and before we put that $2.7 million deposit up, believe me that we had a substantial amount of economic analysis of this, including a great deal of work done with the consultants.
Alan,
So I'm just giving you the sense.
Can we do this
where we start?
If I may, can we do this offline? Because there's a ton of mistakes here I'd like to go over with you, and I really appreciate it. I have 37 years of experience.
It's amazing you can see mistakes.
The three of us can go through.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah.
You really need to keep this at a much higher level right now.
Yeah.
But thank you, Alan, for presenting that. It shows effort that's already gone into the analysis.
Thank you.
That's good. It. And you have consulted with one of the best firms in the business.
And EPS, Jim Musbach was one of the guys who actually helped write the legislation. So we've had a dream team of people working on this from the beginning.
But Alan, can I offer one more thing? I was the intern that formed the Coliseum Redevelopment Survey Area Analysis in 1987. I created the Area Redevelopment Economic Model. I am ahead of the people you're working with, okay? So you need to consult me.
Let me just put one word in here. For the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, TFM is one of the foremost public finance advisors in California, period.
Yeah, I interviewed with them, and they turned me down for some lady. By the admission of the people. I'm just letting you know that.
That in this business, which I was in, that is a fierce competitor. They have excellent staff, absolutely excellent. Okay, let's keep it at a high level though.
Mr. Gardner, thank you for bringing us back to the question of with this whole team, because I know that everybody here has some specific expertise, but I want to make sure that we get to the big picture question, which Supervisor Miley wanted to address, which is what could be done or needs to be done at the big picture and political level to enable even opening this path, right? Mm-hmm. And then the questions about what exactly is the escalator and what exactly are the projections is a different set of questions from the first question of what would be possible legally, politically to even broach this.
Yes.
And so, I want to come back to that question, which Supervisor Miley brought up, to me in terms of, is this even something we could do politically? And I just want to share to all of you that it is something that I am willing to support and advocate for. And it is my understanding that any such decision would require independent votes of both the County Board of Supervisors and the Oakland City Council. Each would have to have an agendized item to vote for to authorize it. So just in terms of those big picture issues, and that is something that I want to say I am open and willing to do and to support. And it would have to go through both bodies. And I also want to hear from Supervisor Miley, your thoughts about kind of the big picture and political viability. And also, if I may, the potential co-ownership contract with the A's being a potential impediment on the county side, and what could be done about that as well.
Can I give you two pieces of important information, high level again, is that in addition to all this analysis, I have in the last month had C-suite level conversations with the leadership of CalSTRS, CalPERS, and the University of California, both the CIO and the Office of the President. I've talked directly to the President, the CIO, and others, and they are very interested in stepping in on behalf of the Coliseum and helping to facilitate this. And that's another place that I wanted you to know that we've gone. And those conversations are as recently as 5 days ago. And they're very, very interested. So again, that's high level.
That is super important. Right. And the other high level things I'll share, and then I want to leave room for my county compatriots, is that this is a transit oriented development project that has been officially listed in the Alameda County countywide transportation plan and the voter approved Measure BB. I put the link in the chat. So those of you, if you're able to access the chat, you can open that link that has the full text of Measure BB, and you'll see that the Coliseum area project is listed as a transit-oriented development project in that voter-approved measure. So that should give us some additional policy firepower, and also with funders. And then the other thing I would add is that including public uses, right? So we're talking about housing, we're talking about commercial, we're talking about sports and entertainment. I would add to that mix for our high purpose discussion, public facilities. So for example, the city of Oakland needs a new crime lab. This could be a great place to build a new crime lab with access to all the high speed internet, fiber, et cetera, for the data. As well as there's been some discussions about doing like a City Hall East with a satellite permit counter so that people in East Oakland don't have to schlep downtown. And I understand the county is exploring some public uses, so including some public uses within the mix, I think also gives us access to additional leverage points.
And can I add something real quick, council member? Those are great opportunities for possessory interest tax to be applied, so we can collect them from the EIFD of the Coliseum. I just want to emphasize, the person who got this ball rolling by writing about it is, I was concerned also that the African American Sports Entertainment Group, which I'm not officially affiliated with at all, but would be in a position where it was, once again, a development organization that was sort of hanging out there without the proper public assistance on a very big project. And I felt that there was this opportunity through this establishment of this zone to give the African American Sports Entertainment Group and also other partner developers, a better opportunity to achieve the objectives of the ENA. So it wasn't, that was the other idea. Okay. So Alan, give me a call,
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
No, we're overdue to talk about it.
Yeah.
So Supervisor Miley, what are your thoughts at the big picture level?
Well, at the big picture level, if there's no objection from this group that's on today, I'd like to see if we could get this agendized as an informational report at our JPA meeting, and then maybe begin to see if we can, as a result of that, direct staff to begin moving forward with this. And at least that way, I can begin to more directly entertain it at the county level. I think it's got to start at the JPA, because I don't know if Rebecca's right, at the county and city have got to sign off on it, but if we do, then it's got to start. I think it's got to start at the JPA. So I was hoping that if we had, like we got Henry and you, Rebecca, and myself, if we're good with this, I'd like to get this agendized for the JPA. That's what I see as the next step.
I will just, and maybe I've carried my decimal points out a few more in some of these aspects. One of the things that Vice Mayor Kaplan referred to in terms of this public-private use of the site is really key and fundamental. And how we navigate to that point is going to be really important, because I know that we want to be mindful of California government code as it pertains to everything from, how you procure these assets to how you do the land, and maintaining the ability to do a tax-exempt bond financing, as well as this tax increment on a number of different aspects. And so this is some stuff that we've traversed through this before. And we just want to make sure that as you think about that, agendizing it, that we have some idea of what those factors are so that we can navigate through that, what could be politically a minefield if not done with some level of thought, but is definitely a way to do. There's definitely a path forward to do it where you're bulletproof and you also maintain the tax exempt nature of those aspects of the projects, that it's important to do that. We can talk about that.
If I may, real quick, the other reason for the importance of this, Councilmember Kaplan, is that AB 464 Mullen allows the use of tax increment financing to form programs that help small businesses impacted by the pandemic, something we haven't done. And this is, this is a linchpin opportunity to use that instrument to do precisely that.
Yes, I think that those are all great points. And in terms of the process, I think to the county question, I think there's going to need to be some clarifying of the county's potential inclusion of public facilities at the site. And I do believe we will need both the city and the county to authorize, if the JPA is going to undertake this, both the city and the county are going to have to authorize the JPA to undertake it. And the county will need to deal with the question of what rights they have or haven't given to the A's to have a say on it. And I don't know if our county folks who are on the line have had any of those conversations yet.
Well, if I may, through the chair, I'm going to assume that's Alan here, but at any rate, it's some of the conversations, Rebecca, particularly regarding landowners. You don't need to push those front and center because that could take you in another direction. So my advice is to leave them out of it for right now. Okay, that's just some powerful advice.
And by landowners, you mean the city, the county, the A's?
No, I mean the A's.
Several things, quickly. Remember that probably shortly after February 1, 2026, the A's own 50% of the complex. The authorizing authority for the joint exercise of powers, the JPA, doesn't say that the JPA has to go out of existence once the bonds are retired. That's why that date is important. But it says that the current JPA may not go out of existence until the bonds are completely retired. So the thinking right now is that sometime in the spring, because it won't happen on February 1st, but it's not official until the deed is recorded. So I'm estimating that sometime by July 1st, if the A's have satisfied all the conditions of that disposition agreement, they will then be 50% owners of the complex. So just keep that in mind. With respect to the current Joint Powers Authority, this authority is not delegated under any instrument. So the current JPA wouldn't be able to do what's being proposed. It would have to be restructured. Under the law, joint powers authorities, first of all, you have to have two parties to have a joint powers authority. Anyway, just a quick sentence about history. It was the city of Oakland that established the first joint powers authority in the state in the 1950s. It was Oakland.
Yep.
So remember that Oakland birthed the joint powers authority.
That's right.
But you need two public agencies with similar powers. Now, it could be a school district, actually, as it was with Oakland. But when we say similar, that's pretty broad. The city now, 100% of this, whatever we're talking about, is in the city of Oakland. Both the city and the county, you've got some of the same, less contentious, but you have some of the same discussion and concern with respect to any kind of enhanced financing authority. The city and the county, it's an investment. So you need to keep that in mind, that when you create any kind of district and you start collecting the money, that's money that otherwise would have gone to the city and the county's general fund. But the converse of that is if you didn't have the project, you wouldn't have it anyway. So, but all that becomes part of the discussion. The other is, and this is for Vice Mayor and Chair Kaplan to consider. This is a political question. Is the city prepared to delegate this authority to a joint powers authority that the city effectively doesn't control? So those are high-level policy issues and discussion. We will need to look closely at Alan's analysis. We also need to hear from bond counsel about whether and how this might be structured before we get too deeply into this.
If I may, Mr.
So
Gardner?
we can have a high-level discussion in September, but I would say we need to do a lot more work before I would be prepared to recommend that we tell the city and the county they should go down this path.
If I may,
Well,
Mr. Gardner,
and I
if
want to
may-
make sure we don't skip
Vice
over
Mayor,
the
Vice
county's
Mayor,
role.
may I make a count? May I make a comment, please? As the person who created a concept called phasing of redevelopment project areas, and actually listed in the San Francisco Business Times, all you have to do is go to Google and type Zennie Abraham Gambit. And actually, that still is something that's doable. I advise everybody, if you want to do this, do it, but don't find reasons not to do it. Find reasons to tell your people to do it. Because what happened with me is behind the closed doors, everyone said Zennie had found a legal loophole. And this is it written. This is in the Business Times now, okay? And it was in 96, all right? But when we got in front, Donnell Choi sandbagged me, okay? So you need to make a decision if you want to do this, but don't do the Oakland fashion where you're trying to find all these reasons not to do something, and then things remain steady state, which is, disinvestment. Just my advice.
My role here is to simply give you my professional advice.
Yes, sir.
And my professional advice is that you consult the people who do this day in and day out and who have been doing it for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
It is what they do.
Hey, Henry, really one quick thing before you leave. I know you have to go. Appreciate it. But I also would like to. I also would like to at some point suggest that we have another shot to look at what the end goal is as it pertains to the specifics of the development of the site to its highest and best outcome, including the integration of a multi-government complex within that site. And I would say that from that vantage point, it would be, I think, practical then to start to look at what kind of legislative actions and others. And we have been talking with bond counsel, with bond underwriters, as well as financial advisors like Bob Gamble and BFM. And so it would be good. The plan that we've put together has been with that counsel. Unfortunately, I haven't had enough chance to talk to my brother Zennie, and we'll correct that because that's an important thing as well. But I just point out, I want to say that there's been quite a bit of work done. And if everybody is in agreement about the vision, and the vision is what I think I've heard from Vice Mayor Kaplan and Supervisor Riley.
Yeah. Oh, can I add something, Henry? Just one more thing before we close.
Before we move on from that, I want to make sure, because this joint governmental use is going to be really important, both to what kind of funding we're eligible for, what kind of legal tools we have. So to Supervisor Miley, how ready are you and or the county to start furthering conversations about potential governmental use functions at the Coliseum site? And what do you need to be able to do that?
The county hasn't had any discussions about this just yet. If the JPA were to agendize this direction as a possibility, that would prompt us to begin having those conversations. I can have those conversations with the county administrator and county council internally, but I think we would either need to have that's why I think JPA is probably the JPA to kind of cue this up and say, yeah, this is something we think would be good to pursue. And then that would prompt, okay, let's really get rolling on this.
Right. Oh, I just want to add something too, real quick, regarding PFM. Henry, I was to be hired by them. This goes all the way back.
Going back to the history, we need to hear from.
I understand. No, Henry, let me say.
Or we're going to have to end this meeting. And I wish, who's chairing this meeting?
Henry, I was only going to say that my knowledge is very good.
You're spending a lot of time telling us about the history. We need to stay on point.
I Right.
Supervisor
probably
Miley,
right.
tell us, can you and Kaplan tell us what you want us to leave this meeting with?
Henry, I want one other thing to put in, an important piece of information for everybody is last Friday, I had a continuation of a conversation that I've been having with Chad Finke. As you know, that the courts, the Alameda County courts have had some interest in the site. And I've met with the presiding judge, the deputy presiding judge, and Chad, along with my colleagues at JLL. And we had a continuation. There is strong rationale and interest. Of course, the Judicial Council of the state is a big player there, but I just want to introduce that as well, because that's 800,000 square feet of potential.
Hey, can I say
use on
something?
the
If I'm
site.
going to be treated like that, count me out. Okay, Henry, that was wrong. All right, it was wrong.
Zennie, we
It was
had
wrong.
1 hour, and
It
now
was wrong.
we've got
You didn't let me
few minutes.
finish. It was
You
wrong.
dominated the conversation.
I didn't dominate the conversation. You have an issue with me, Henry. Okay,
It's not.
It is. It was wrong. Count
Vice
me
Mayor
out.
Kaplan.
No,
and
that was
Supervisor-
wrong. You can apologize later.
Somebody needs
I
to
don't
manage
treat people like that.
Okay.
And okay. And I've
Tony,
been abused.
please,
I've been
please,
abused by a lot of people, and I'm tired of it.
Please.
I'm not
please.
putting up with this anymore. Okay, you don't do
Please.
that.
So we stop the side conversations,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just
Count me out.
try
That
to
was
stay
wrong.
on point here.
That was
So
wrong.
This is supposed to be a meeting to try to determine whether or not EIFD would be a possibility for the Coliseum site, and what would be the next steps towards maybe achieving that. And based on what I'm hearing, I think it's a possibility, but there's a lot that needs to be taken into consideration to make that happen. And all I'm saying is for the county to queue this up, I think it would be really good if we could have the JPA have it like an informational report on this as something the JPA thinks would be good to enhance the viability of the Coliseum site going forward into the future, recognizing that, we're probably going to lose the A's, and what's going to be the future of the site. And this could be a tool that would help achieve the overall development of that site. And I think based on that, then both the city, county, we could also begin to look at now what would it take to make that happen? What's the process? Who needs to be engaged? What are the legal requirements and all those types of things? That's my thought at the moment.
So your preference, Supervisor, is that it comes to the JPA before the county would initiate anything?
Yeah, yes.
And maybe we want to, given this discussion, have a JPA info discussion about potential future public usages that could be situated on the site, given what Alex just shared about the county courts being interested. That could be very powerful, yes, and would make us eligible for all kinds of additional powers and funding.
Yes, yes.
And so were you seeking an open session item or a closed session item?
I think this would have to be an open session. I don't hear a basis for a closed session.
Well, real estate negotiations are typically closed session, but I don't think we're at that point yet.
Yeah,
for the informational report and what I've heard, I think we can, of course, confer with JPA counsel, but I think that they would say that not likely.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing Henry was saying. This would still be more or less a high level type of presentation without us getting into, well, this is who we need to negotiate with and we need to move forward with all those terms and things of that nature. That's closed session. This is to kind of lay out the thinking around, do we want to pursue this option as well as other options, and who needs to go off and begin to look at that. And I think based on that kind of discussion, I could then run with that through the county.
Oh, I get it. So in other words, having this discussion happen at the JPA will help you be able to move it through the county.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll-
And one other quick thing, and county council is going to be coming back to the board to talk to us in closed session about, our transfer of our ownership rights to the A's. But just from what I've been informed of, I don't know if there's much we're going to be able to do there, but county council is going to be talking to us about that again.
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion that you consider the public uses of the site, the public agencies, discussing it and considering it in a generic manner without necessarily saying which public entities?
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be good too. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, and to the supervisor, for your upcoming discussion with your own team, if the county is planning to build public facilities on the site, that dramatically changes your legal leverage if you wanted to retain or not do the transfer to the A's. If you have a plan for a public facility, that gives you a completely another legal avenue.
I know county council hasn't advised us on that just yet because that question hasn't been put to them. But I think as a result of the JP having a high level discussion, and we not necessarily focus on the county, but the public sector having facilities on the site and be a part of an enhanced infrastructure financing district and everything else associated with the development of the site, I think that would be sufficient information for county council then to begin to look at, well, now, what would be the implications of that relative to the our transfer of our ownership interest to the Oakland A's?
And with respect, I think when it comes to a governmental mission-oriented agency, that instills a lot of preemptive land use authority with someone. And I think that's why I think talking about generically may be enough now, but also, as part of that generic conversation, considering what preemptive land use authority, what condemnation capabilities, and other things, including building the roads and infrastructure. That's another avenue that you might consider. So those are the things that I think we're looking at, the big mission of the project and the economic development, and then having a good inventory of what are those types of tools in addition to the EIFD that are available to the county, the city, and the JPA.
So, yeah, I value everybody who's on this call today. I consider you all very wise, thoughtful, and friends. And so, I really wanted to make sure Henry could hear this. And I know I've had some side conversations with Rebecca, because Henry's the one who's got to bring this to the JPA. So if I thought if Henry felt that this was we were going down a dead end road here, and I didn't want to pursue it. But if you feel, Henry, we can queue up some type of informational report on this at the JPA, recognizing that the chair and the vice chair of the JPA are supportive of this, then I'd like to see us do this. And we put in the context of the future of the JPA site and possible avenues to pursue.
I think it's anything but a dead end.
Okay.
I think that it is, I should not overstate the case, but I don't see any real hard stop sign. I think there's a lot more work and analysis to be done, but it has been, I'm preaching to the choir, far too long for us to get that site developed. And what I have always found attractive about developing, and incidentally, I think we should be looking at, and I hope we are, looking at more than just the complex, that we be looking at a broader footprint than the complex for this.
Yeah.
The neighborhood has been waiting far too long for something to happen. And obviously it's very disappointed that the A's chose not to stay. And I hope that they won't be a hindrance as we try to move forward. But I think that while redevelopment has gone away, we all know that, there are other tools that might make this possible. And I don't hear any absolute legal impediments to doing it. I think it really comes down to a policy decision between the city and the county. And a lot of it is going to rest with the city because it's within its boundaries and it has really ultimate say over what happens in terms of development. But I think that there is benefit, absolutely benefit, to pursuing something like this. And new tools come up all the time. We need to explore those. This is not an area that we have really spent any focused time on, because I think that, you know, from the Joint Powers Authority, we've been operating under the powers that have been delegated to the JPA and not really looking beyond that. This is an opportunity to at least raise the question, but then more than that, if not the JPA under some restructure, what structure might work?
Yeah.
So I think all of that is timely and relevant.
Yeah, and I think you being former city manager and all the wisdom that you have and being a stakeholder, and I think the Coliseum site and the area hasn't lived up to its potential. That could really be our second downtown, quite frankly. And like Rebecca's always saying, this is the only place where the city and the county sit down together.
Mm-hmm.
I just think until we're told not to do something, we should go ahead and try to do what we think is in the best interest of the broader community relative to the JPA site and the adjacent communities.
Well, I want to say that I wholeheartedly support that, and I think it's wonderful, Supervisor Miley, that you and I are in leadership at this moment of the JPA, because we can then use the JPA as the sounding board, and even knowing that any such actions will require city council approval and county supervisor approval eventually, we can hash them out a little more at the JPA, where we sit together and then send an item back to the city and county to create the legal structure. So I think that it's a great use of it. And the fact that we have Mr. Henry Gardner is absolutely key to being then also able to have the wisdom to be able to do that. So I think it would be good to look toward maybe an initial informational discussion that could talk about potential future public uses at the site, and potential strategies to come together around those. I would not recommend that at our first public info session that we would present the detail level spreadsheets on the potential financial projections. I think that we don't want to start with that, but I think we could start with the question. And you're right, it's not only the Coliseum property itself. If you look at the Coliseum area specific plan that was adopted by the city of Oakland, right, it covers about 800 acres in the surrounding area, which includes the corporation yard, which is already a public use as well. And so I think that, and of course, you know, Malibu, others, and the other sites along San Leandro. So I do think it's okay to have a broader discussion, but I think if we can start having a discussion about some potential future public uses, and some potential structures, so that then if we then need the city and county to each vote out a new authorization, giving the JPA authority to undertake certain next steps, we'll then know which next steps we need to give the power to do. And clearly identifying this as a named, funded, transit-oriented development project, as a priority development area project, all the things that would give it additional power and leverage in the funding as well.
Okay, I think we got a wrap here. I think this sounds good. And I know Alan and Zennie are going to talk offline some more.
Yeah. Yeah, I owe my brother Zennie some time. I've been trying to reach out to you, and we're just overdue, and we'll get it.
Okay.
Because we need your wisdom.
Thank you.
And I think now that we've had this conversation, Rebecca works with Henry on the agendas for the JPA meeting. So hopefully we might be able to get this before the JPA sometime this fall.
And Nate, thank you for inviting me, by the way.
Yes, and Zennie.
Yes, sir.
I was showing my frustration that we have very limited time. And I really wanted this meeting to be more about what, after framing it broadly, to hear from the vice mayor, who is also the chair, and the vice chair, who's also the chair of the board.
Yes, sir.
With this limited period of time. It wasn't not to cut you off, but if you play the tape back, we needed to bring this to where we ended up.
Yes, sir.
God is good all the time, and we need all of us here. And I'm glad for all of us. And I think so. Just to be clear, so I think our first item, and Mr. Gardner, I'll work with you on the title, but would be an informational discussion on potential future public uses at the site. Would be certainly one of the topics we would want to cover in the initial discussion. And I think not the financial spreadsheets for the initial discussion.
And to Alan's point, I think we want to keep the public uses very generic. We don't want to send people off screaming by calling out certain, when we haven't even talked to them. Because one that occurred to me is there may be some interest, public use from, and not for classroom, but some public use from the Oakland School District. And we don't know that yet.
Well, Oakland Unified could move their administrative offices to the site. And even if I may be so bold, as a prior board member of AC Transit has an office building at 15th and Franklin in downtown Oakland that they could readily sell to a housing developer. And you have the new AC Transit administrative headquarters could be here.
And I have this a treasure trove of these kind of conversations with University of California, with BART.
Yeah.
And I hope at some point we figure out how to get all those on your radar screen, because they're exciting.
Good.
Well, this could be the East Bay's version of the Metro Center. That they put this Metro Center in San Francisco that houses 4 different government agencies. Right,
Mission Bay and Aggie Square. Those are a couple of really good examples as well. Aggie Square, a recent EIFD.
By the way, I just want to point out real quick, everybody, those are leases that can count toward our tax increment calculation. So don't think because they're government, they don't mean anything. They actually mean something.
Right. Good point. Zennie, we're still friends.
Yeah, absolutely, boss.
People
Gotcha.
when I'm watching the top, Zennie, I'm going to call you.
Please do.
Let's the 3 of us. I'm going to be traveling in August, but let the 3 of us get together and dive into the details.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. We should play "We Are Family" because that's really what it is.
Thank you all very much.
See you later.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Supervisor Miley, thank you for calling.
Supervisor Miley,
Supervisor.
since I know you wanted to make sure some of this happened, did you get everything you needed, Supervisor Miley, in terms of today's discussion?
I got everything and then some.
All right. We're good.
It's just a family reunion, y'all. It's okay.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Hey, Alan, when you want to get together? Well, I guess we can figure out how to do that. Let's see here.
Yeah. Well, let's just shoot. We have your email address, yours too, Alan. Let's find a time that we can talk.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Henry, I apologize.
No need for it.
No, I just said PFM. I knew a guy who worked for them, and they asked me to interview, and he chose a lady. He says, "Did you see those legs?" And I'm thinking, you chose me, right? So I was like, "What?"
You should apply again.
Oh, you know what that is? That was 1988.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be in touch.
Yes, sir. You got it. I'm still here. Okay. All right.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 510504828 is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Nate, I'm just getting, thanks again. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Donald Lacey checking in Friday around 1:30.